Welcome. Today's talk is about why parents with college-age kids should not have as many rules and restrictions on their children as they did in high school. First off, children who are in college are usually 18 years of age or older, which makes them a legal adult in the United States. This alone should just show that the kids have more responsibility going off to college and should not have as many restrictions back home. When you become a legal adult, you take on more responsibility, especially when you go to college. There becomes a financial aspect that each student has to take care of on their own. During this time, they have to pay for food, housing, their own things. A lot of college-age students start to work, making them financially stable enough to live in a college dorm. Dr. Edward J. Clark talks about the types of conflicts and tensions between older parents and adult children. One of the biggest ones being the limitations that parents set, thinking that their children are still very young and can't handle themselves. When a college-age student moves back home for the summer or even after college, the biggest rule that parents should have is that they just know where they are and not to have a curfew. If you put a curfew on a college-age kid, it's going to cause tension because they're used to being on their own, knowing when they can be out, when they can be home, not having to communicate this at all times. I have with me my good friend Colin Murphy, who is going to talk about the leniency that his parents have for him. Colin, if you don't mind, just give a little background about your living situation and the leniency that your parents show and how that affects you on a day-to-day basis.
Hey Matt, thank you so much for having me in your presentation. For those who don't know me, my name's Colin Murphy, and I'm a junior politics major here at Catholic. I am from Massachusetts, so during the school year I go home probably 3 to 4 times a year to visit family for holidays and other events, things like that. My parents definitely have a more lenient approach to parenting, especially with me being a legal adult. I am 21 years old. If you were to ask them why they have that parenting style, they would probably make some sort of joke that I'm the third child and they've kind of given up on parenting, but that is most definitely only a joke. They've become more and more lenient as I've become older. And now that I'm a legal adult, you can really see that sense of trust and respect they have. I think you can see that when I go home regarding going out and that kind of policy. There really is no policy when I'm home for going out because I'm a legal adult. I have the ability to go out. I don't have a curfew. Now, that brings up a different issue. My parents don't expect me to be out until 3 or 4 in the morning. They raised me, better than that to be home at a decent time. But again, before I go out, they're not going to tell me you need to be home by midnight or 1 a.m. I think they know. They raised me. They have that expectation that they don't have to tell me that. They also have a very lenient approach when it comes to grades and classes and things like that. I'm going to get as much into my college experience as much as I put into it. So if I wake up in the morning and I skip a class, that's my decision. And, I'm not going to tell my parents about that. I don't need to. And my parents don't ask me. They have the expectation that I'm going to do what's best because they raised me that way. So yeah, they've given me a lot more leniency. They've given me the ability to kind of learn from my own mistakes. They've definitely given me the ability to learn when I fail. That's kind of part of the learning experience. That's why they give me so much independence. So when I do fail, I'm not gonna go down that path again. But yeah, so because I am an adult, they've given me more and more freedom. And at this point, it's fair to say that I've kind of learned my lessons on things I should do and things I shouldn't do. And as I approach senior year, I can keep those decisions in the back of my mind. So I hope that helps.
Colin, thank you for answering that question very well and giving us your personal experience. Thank you also for touching on the aspect of the respect between you and your parents, coming home as a college student, staying with them for breaks. This is an important part, especially after the student has graduated from college and moves back in. One of the biggest rules to set up is an expected timeline of how long the student believes that they will be living at home. If you have a timeline, you know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel of when they will be moving out, starting their lives, whether it be with someone on their own, moving to a different state, city, starting a new job. The biggest thing is that there is a date at the end for where they will stop living at home and move out. As far as the respect goes, for a student who is just back home for breaks, one of the biggest things is knowing that your parents still have to get up, go to work, that there are other parts of their lives that they have to continue doing even when you come home for break, even though you would like to think that their lives surround yours, and they just base what they do off of you. They still have to work, earn their money, do what they do, live their lives. And I think that respect plays an important part, because if you come home at 3, 4 a.m., drunk from going out and start causing a big scene, it just creates a bad vibe between the family. Can make the parent angry, especially having to get up for work or even do whatever they do over the weekends. And just as you would respect their lives, they need to have respect towards you, knowing that maybe you want to sleep in while you're at home. They don't want to get up and start making noise as soon as they wake up. Let you sleep in, rest. This is your college break. You're supposed to have fun, but there still needs to be an aspect of respect. So Colin, the next question I have for you: what do you think is the most important part of you being home, in terms of respect, in terms of what you do? And if you move home after college, how long do you expect to be living there? What do you expect from your family at this point? And what would they expect from you while living at home after graduating?
Well, Matt, those are some really good questions. You talked about how I use the phrase respect, I think it was, between me and my parents. Now that I've had time to think about it, I think the proper word would be trust. And my parents trust me to act a certain way because of the way I've been raised. So use the example of coming home at 3 in the morning, obviously intoxicated after a night of going out. I can tell you that would never happen. My parents have trust that I'm not going to act in that way. They trust me in that I'm not going to get behind the wheel of a car when I go out after drinking, things like that. They have the trust to know that I can make my own decisions and I'm going to make as responsible as decisions as possible. So no, I would not come home at 3 in the morning in that condition when I'm visiting my parents at home. But again, it really has to go back to trust. The reason I have the leniency I do with my parents is because they've raised me to be the man I am today, and they trust that I'm going to do what's right, that will reflect upon me, that will reflect upon my parents, that will reflect upon my family. And that's one of the reasons they've given me so much freedom as an adult now. With regards to your second questions, I probably will not be living at home after college. I'll probably be staying in this area, but I have older brothers who have lived at home after college. It was actually just after the 2008 recession, so most kids graduating from college went and lived at home for a few months or even up to a year to kind of become more stable financially and to get on their own feet. I can tell you that even when I go home for vacation, there's always an expectation that I'm going to do things around the house. If the lawn needs to be mowed, I'm going to do it. And it's not necessarily that my parents need to ask me. I'm an adult. They've given me everything they have to get me to this point. I'm obviously going to feel the need to give back in some manner. So if I were to stay at home after college, I'm sure that would be kind of an unsaid rule there. You're going to contribute to things around the house if you stay there. They don't have to let you stay there now that you're a legal adult, but they're going to, because they're your parents, they're my parents, and I would definitely want to give back to them, really in gratitude to thank them for what they're doing for me and for allowing me to stay with them until I get on my own feet. So I would absolutely put effort in around the house and things like that. I think that's important really for any kid in my generation who plans on living with their parents after college until they're financially stable. At that point, you are a guest in their house, even though you may be sleeping in the room you grew up in, but you really need to give back. You can't just continue to have a free ride, if you want to say that. But yeah, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Colin, thank you for that answer. I think that was spectacular, and I think that you're right. It's more of an aspect of trust than anything when you go back home now. And if you were to move back in, with your brothers, I know with my older brother there is, an aspect of trust. And with me about to move back in with my parents, even for a short amount of time, there is the aspect of trust that's needed between the parents and the child. This is possibly one of the biggest things. Through many research studies have shown that this is the biggest aspect of relationship with family, is this trust that needs to be there. And with the different parenting styles that are out there, authoritarian, authoritative, even what they call helicopter parenting, the biggest thing is that there needs to be this sense of trust. And especially when a child gets older, what we've learned about and talked about, parents need to need to still be monitoring their child, but still need to back off as the child gets older, or else the child will feel suffocated, and there could be some serious consequences to this. This aspect of trust is important because it really can help get things done around the house. I know when I go home, when I'm going to be home, one of the biggest things is helping to drive my little brothers to their different events after they've put up with driving me around, dealing with all the stuff that I've had growing up. And for us, it is more of a feeling of trying to give back to our parents for all they've given us with college, if your parents help pay for it, all these other different aspects. And for a student who is moving back home, it's important for them, to be able to financially support themselves. And there was a study done, part of Dr. Clark's study, that he talks about there needs to be financial limitations set for each parent. There have been other parents who have even drawn up contracts with their children that state they need to pay a specific amount per month that covers what they call rent, food, even letting them drive the car around for insurance, help cover insurance, to give them a little more responsibility while still having some limitations around the house. At the end of the day, it is their house. No one is saying that the children should be allowed to do whatever they want. That's just, it's not a good idea at all, or else that'll cause a lot more trouble. But there should be not as many rules as in high school. In high school, you weren't allowed to drive the car past a certain time, or you had to be home at a certain time of the day. And for a kid who is growing and, for some kids in a certain amount of months, or even for other kids, in 2-3 years after they move out, they need to start having this financial responsibility to help pay for rent. When they get paid for doing their job, they need to know that a certain amount of money gets set to the side for rent, for food, for insurance, for all these other things. And as ridiculous as it might sound, a contract with your parents might be the best option, purely because this gives you almost a little leniency for these bills that you need to pay: phone bill, rent, insurance. It covers so much that it's almost like a good segue into living on your own. For kids that do move back home, it's perfect living with your family. It gives you better opportunity to have more freedom to find a better job, get settled in, learn the ways of the company, learn the ways of living on your own with a good job, real money. But the limitations that parents can set for their children will help them the better segue into this new life that they are living. As crazy as these contracts might seem to some people and to some parents that will see this video, it's a better option than you think. According to the New York Times, they did a study and showed that adults ages 18 to 34 are more likely to move back in with their parents than they are to live with a romantic partner. This just shows you that the amount of people and adult age children that are living with their parents is growing even now, when we do see people want more and more responsibility. Finances are such a big thing that these contracts that have their financial obligations are a great way to lead into people living on their own. It just gives them a better segue into doing it. It eases them into it, something that I believe each parent and child should have. And the children are going to be better off in life after they've known how to pay bills, how to get through their financial aspects of life in a better way than just going out having all these bills thrown on top of them without a good solid foundation behind them. Whereas when you move in with your parents and have these limitations and not rules, then it's a better way to help them live a better life. And the biggest thing is you can't call these sets of limits, you can't call them rules, or else the children will feel, even at an older age, that they need to break them. We talked about in class that helicopter parenting is the wrong way to go. It can either turn kids into troublemakers, or it can even give them the possibility that they just won't be able to fight for themselves, fend for themselves when they need to. With parents, especially at this age, the best thing is to just give them their space, but still be there for them when they need it. Colin, one of the best things I think that you pointed out all night was the fact that you are the third child in your family. For me, I am the second of four, children in my family. My older brother is 24, married, living in Tennessee in the Army. He's definitely set himself up to live a good life. And for me to go home and visit my family back in North Carolina, one of the biggest things is I do have a little brother who's in high school. I do have a little brother who is in middle school. So the vibe around my house is that there are these more rules and regulations, especially around my house, since I do have little brothers that still need to go through with these different rules that my parents have set for my brother and I growing up. Each kid is different, so each kid needs different rules, but the general aspect of it should still stay the same. I think it's important for kids growing up at younger ages to have some good rules, some good foundations set behind them to help them live good lives. And I think that my older brother would agree that we had a great set of rules growing up to live by, where we still had responsibility, but we knew the actions that we had to make every day to help around the house. One of the biggest things is for parents going home, when you have younger children still at home and you have one who is visiting from college or moving back home from college, one of the biggest things is that you don't keep these rules and regulations for the college-age student that you have for these younger children. As hard as it might be, they are adults now. They are able to financially set themselves apart and be financially independent, unlike your high school, middle school, elementary age children. So I think one of the biggest things is for parents being able to separate that they are older, they are able to take care of themselves, but you still need to have the limitations because it is your house as parents. It is your house. You pay all the bills. But I think having this contract of that makes the student or recent graduate pay some bills towards you will help them and will help you to make sure that the house stays clean, the house stays stable. That you're able to get through this time together. So for me, the biggest thing is that you need to have some limitations. Don't have rules. You can set limitations, but the biggest thing is just to communicate. Communication is one of the most important aspects of our lives, even through work, family, friendships, especially moving back home. The biggest thing is being able to talk to your children or from the kids for your parents about issues that you may be having with their living situation, with yours, how you want to change it, how can you improve it. Biggest thing is that you need to keep this communication going. If we don't have this communication, things will break down, that it will cause problems. So parents, children, if you are going to live together, set a contract. Make sure that there are limitations but not rules. Thank you.